Hello and welcome, I am Ashysaurus aka Ashy, and today I'm going to be talking about the Like a Dragon trailer that was released and the overall feeling that I have before the show launches on October 24th. If this is the type of content you would like to see, news, Yakuza, or RPGs, then you're in the right place. So like and subscribe to see more. Let's jump into it. So they released this not too long ago. I was supposed to talk about it during the time when the Majima trailer came out and also when this came out, but here I go. I'm going to talk about the synopsis first. Let's jump into it. This Japanese action drama plunges into the dark underworld of the Yakuza, exploring the universal theme of family not only through bloodlines but also through the ties between Yakuza bosses and their underlings, orphans and their caretakers, as well as mentors and students. These relationships are marked by deep affection at times and by intense conflict at others, all intricately intertwined. Set in the fictional town of Kamurocho, this story unfolds across two intersecting timelines, 1995 and 2005. In 1995, eager to escape their restrictive lives, Kiryu and his friends Nishiki, Yumi, and Miho plans a heist at a local arcade. However, the arcade is under control of the Dojima family, a powerful Yakuza organization that rules Kamurocho. They dive into the Yakuza-controlled underworld of 1995 Kamurocho. Meanwhile, in 2005, Kiryu is set to be released from prison. He learns from the detective Date that his friends are in danger and decides to return to Kamurocho to protect them. However, their friendship has deteriorated, as tensions between the Tojo clan and Omi alliance are at a boiling point. So I wanted to talk about now the characters. I thought I would talk about the trailer, but unfortunately you can't show the trailer often on these things, so I don't really like to do reactions to the trailers or talking about them by showing them off, so sometimes I'll post like screenshots. So I'm just going to talk about the stuff that I wanted to mention mostly, and that is the characters. So I've seen Sarah here, and I don't even know how they thought this would be Sarah. This guy looks nothing like Sarah. I have no idea how they thought this would look like Sarah. He does not look like Sarah. I don't know if Sarah's going to be still alive during this because in Kiwami he dies, so I don't know if he's still alive or this is going to be the stuff that's happening in between 1995 and 2005, so I have no idea if he's just still alive or not, but he does not look like who I would think would be Sarah. I think they would have hired someone maybe who looks a little bit younger. They also added in Nishiki's sister as a character, which I don't understand why they did this. The whole point was that she was kind of like sickly, he was trying to get money for her and things like that. If they wanted to have her as a character that he just visits in the hospital, I could understand that. But for her to be a whole nother character, I don't know how she's gonna fit in this plot line and how this is gonna work in this plot line. I just think that for her plot line, it kind of just is weird to add her in here, and also she may have been the reason why they cut out a bigger character out of the franchise who's really huge, which is unbelievable. We'll get more into that later. They also added Aiko, which is Yumi's long-lost sister, who would have been the Mizuki plot. At least that's what I believe, and a lot of other people think it's gonna be. Is that they changed it from the original plot of the Mizuki is Yumi kind of thing. Apparently, it's completely changed. It's a whole new character who has ties to the underworld and may be the one who took the 10 billion yen in this. At least it seems like that. They also added in the Demon of Shinjuku. I don't know how this works. This is a strange plot line, and it reminds me of the mole from Judgment, and I think other people said this before. I just don't understand what this is for. I can't see why they added this because there were so many other plot lines in Kiwami, and it seems like they're removing the Jingu plot line and adding in the Demon of Shinjuku instead to make it more, I guess, serious and things like that. It's mentioned that he wants to take Kamurocho, so I'm gonna guess he has something to do with either 10 billion yen or he's just some other arcing storyline, which once again, the show is only 6 episodes. It's very short, so I have no idea why they added in a new character in another plot line. I know for the Mizuki one, they just wanted to split it up, but this is now a whole nother character and no longer Jingu is involved. From my knowledge, this is what they did. They also showed off Date and Kazema. I'm gonna be honest with you, I'm gonna post it on the screen, but this poster that I'm putting on the screen, this is the poster. I did not know who these people were. I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't look at the trailer first before seeing this. I seen this post first, which I think for Kazema, I feel like they made him weird. He's retired. He's no longer in the Yakuza. He kind of treats you not so nicely in the trailer, at least it looked like. And I also wonder how this is gonna work. Are they gonna have Sarah's funeral and then he still gets shot? Because this is gonna ruin the plot line if he doesn't get shot, because that was the whole reason why he started working with Date. So I don't know how that's gonna work. I guess they're just gonna have it that Date just tells him that his friends are now in danger or something, because it doesn't seem like either Sarah's gonna die, at least from the trailer, and Kazuma is no longer in the Yakuza. So I don't understand why he would be going to the funeral, since he cut that kind of life out, unless they write something in, but we'll see. For Date, they showed him off, and I think he looks a bit young for Date, but I guess they just didn't want him to look super old, even though he's not that much older than Kiryu. But he just doesn't really get Date to me. But maybe I'm just so used to the games that I was expecting an older looking cop guy, but maybe that's just me. We also got a trailer earlier on, which I was mentioning about Majima, and I don't know where to start with this one because the actor looks great as Majima. I think he looks like a fine Majima and he would work for Majima. My issue with this is that they are showing him shooting at civilians, what it looks like, and that he's just acting like the Joker. He's just like laughing and just like trying to hurt people, when that's not Majima. I feel like people always get Majima wrong, and this is funny because for me, I did not like Majima at first before starting to play the games, and then when I played Kiwami in Zero, I was like, okay, this character is completely different than what I seen it, because he looked like he was just supposed to be their like Joker character. I think a lot of times they get this character wrong for Majima, and even in the Pirates Yakuza game, they're mentioning that Majima is not the crazy character that you always see. He actually has a lot of stuff that he likes to hide. So I think for this, I know for Kiwami, he was really wacky in the storyline, but for him to be shooting at civilians, that's just absolutely out of his character to do stuff like that, because he just doesn't do stuff like that. That's why I think that they did Majima wrong here. Now, they also show that he is getting arrested, which I think that should have waited, because that does happen in the later game, spoiler alert, but I just feel like they could have waited a little bit to do more with that. So I feel like it's just gonna be weird, because I feel like they're changing up a lot of stuff and taking stuff from other games and just throwing it in here. Also, they're throwing out the entire plot line for Majima from Zero, but we'll get more into that later. I also want to talk about that there's no Shinji shown. It doesn't seem like Shinji is in it, which was a big character for Kiryu, because what happens, spoiler alert, what happens, this Shinji is really a big part of Kiryu's character, and I feel like they are cutting that out. That it no longer exists. Instead, they're gonna probably use other characters in here, and they're just, you know, taking out characters that really are meaningful to Q, and I just feel like they could have done stuff, but I don't know if he may make appearance as a smaller character or something like that. But once again, this is only like 6 episodes, so I don't know how they're gonna make an appearance for him and just not go by the storyline. They show off Reina, and they show her off a few times. She's a bit older looking, but I think that's because the actress was actually in the original Yakuza movie, but I'm pretty sure she was. I've seen that somewhere, and I think she does look a little bit older than the other characters, because she is supposed to be around their ages. So I don't know how that's gonna work. I don't know if they're gonna change that. So yeah, that's about it for characters. I'm moving on to plotline changes. Plotline changes is because I want to talk about this. Majima and Saejima are in 1995, which makes no sense, because Majima in this one, he has both his eyes, and Saejima was supposed to be in jail during this time. During the time of Zero, that has been changed, that now Saejima is during 1995, and so is Majima with his eye. So that's changed. Everything like that took place in the 80s, where he got arrested and Majima lost his eye. Now, also, which I don't know how they're going to plan this and how this is going to work out, but this absolutely tosses out the plotline for Zero, which is one of my favorite games. Zero is one of the best games, especially Majima's storyline. He is the reason why I always want a Majima game, because Majima is such a good character. Even if he's like, looks like a crazy character and things like that, when they actually write his deeper side of his story, it's so good. That's why I'm so excited from Pirate Yakuza. I'm so excited for that game, because I just want to see more of good writing for Majima's character. Majima is such a great character when he's not just the crazy kooky character. He's actually a really deep and really interesting character, and that's why I always recommend playing Zero. It is so good. So I just don't know how this is going to work out and how they're going to work it out to make it work. I just don't know. I just don't see that working for me. Now I'm going to talk about how Kiryu's friends are all involved with the underworld in the Yakuza. I think this is a dumb plotline. This is so dumb to me, because this also changes that Kiryu and Nishiki wanted to be in the Yakuza, and Kazuma said no. They later got into the Yakuza anyway, and he tried to watch over Kiryu the best he could, which is another reason why Kazuma can't walk, is because he actually got shot in the leg, or he got stabbed in the leg or something like that in one of the games during rescuing Kiryu, because he cared so much about Kiryu that he was willing to sacrifice that for him. And I think that is really interesting to do that, but now I don't know if that plotline will even exist in this show, so I don't know how that's gonna work. Also, I just don't feel like this is gonna work at all. Like, they make it seem like Yumi's gonna betray him, and that everyone's just betraying Kiryu, and they're not like his friends anymore. And I just feel like that's a lame plotline, because this feels like the plotline where they're making Kiryu the punching bag, and he's just a punching bag. Where that didn't happen until later games, and I complained about that for the later games, that they do make Kiryu feel like he's just the punching bag. Everything bad has to happen to Kiryu. I feel like that's lame, and that's a bad way to write a character, that just to make them a punching bag just for drama. For this, they're making that happen. Like, there's a line where she's just like, it's all your fault, Kiryu. If you never joined the Yakuza. I don't know if exactly if that was Yumi, but it sounded like it was supposed to be Yumi saying that, and I'm just like, that's garbage. I don't want to hear that. They didn't have to follow Kiryu, and that was the reason in the original game. They did not follow Kiryu. Only Nishiki did. Nishiki followed Kiryu, and then even in Zero, they had a really big moment where he was the opposite of Kiryu, and he was like breaking down and stuff like that, and it's such a good moment because he's not Kiryu. They're the absolute opposites of each other, and that's why I really love that part of that game. And that's why I think for this, it just doesn't make sense that they all betray him, all wanted to join the Yakuza, and then act like this. I personally don't like it. And now with the Aiko like plotline that they're going with, they're having now that Aiko is now a big plotline in this, that she's now Mizuki. It just shows that now they're just making Yumi a completely different character. Even though I know people don't like Yumi, but she had a big point in this story of being a completely different person. That was her big plotline. Now that changes, and now we have a different character. And I personally don't like that, so that's just personally me. Now the other changes I will talk about is that the demon and Miho just feel weird. I just feel like they are going to change the plotline. It feels unnecessary. Once again, this is 6 episodes. If this was a long drama, like 40 episodes, I could see something going here. So I don't know how this is gonna work. I watched dramas that only had like 10 episodes, felt like they were like 30. But I don't know how this is gonna work with also adding on unnecessary plots. I don't know how the Demon of Shinjuku is gonna work. This doesn't make any sense for this plotline personally to me. If they wanted to add that into another game, like maybe a Yakuza 2, I feel like they could have done it for that one. And I feel like for Miho, they added a new character in there instead of adding in one of the biggest characters of the franchise. But I feel like that's kind of like, I don't know what to do about that feeling of like, I just don't know why they added her in as a bigger character. Also, to be a criminal and also then later get sick. Like, I feel like that was a weird thing to add in. I want to talk about a few more things. Is the Yumi and Aiko separation. That is a big change of plotline. I feel like that's going to change everything, because the whole reason he was interested in finding Mizuki because she has a connection to Yumi, but now they're changing that. It also makes me wonder if there's a point to have Yumi in the plotline because she's no longer Mizuki, because technically she was just Kiryu's love interest, and then she has a bigger plotline to be Mizuki. Find out that the lady that you've been tracing was not actually her sister, it was actually her. That was a huge plotline in this story. I feel like now we have 2 different people. What's the point of them being separate now? I don't know how that's gonna work, and how they're gonna be like, oh, Yumi, did you know you had a sister? And if she did know she had a sister, why didn't she mention that earlier? Then I want to see how they work that in, being like, she had a sister, she disappeared, blah blah blah. I want to see how that's gonna work out, and if people say that they look familiar, they look like siblings, things like that, like how is that gonna work? I also wonder how this is gonna work. Is she not going to be kidnapped by Dojima? Is that not gonna happen? Is it because of the whole robbing in the beginning? Is that the reason why he goes to jail for them instead and they join the Yakuza? Like, is robbing a place is gonna get you 10 years in jail? I don't know how they work in other countries, but I don't see how that's gonna work, but we'll see. Now, I will also mention that my biggest fear for this as a whole is just that I feel like they might make Haruka be Aiko's kid instead of Yumi's, which changes everything, which also adds in that they don't have Haruka in the storyline. I was waiting to get onto this just because I feel like I need to talk about the whole Haruka as a rant. Why did you remove Haruka? I don't get this plotline to remove a really big character. Like, Haruka gets her own plotline in the 5th game. How are you now gonna have that? Is she even going to have it like this? If we ever got that far in these dramas, would that even work now? Because she had known Kiryu for so long, and that Kiryu became a father figure when she was really young. Now I'm just afraid that they're going to change that, and that now Yumi is no longer connected to Haruka that way. Instead, Haruka is going to be connected to Aiko. But I feel like that's going to be a stupid plotline change. And I don't know if that's going to happen, obviously. That's just a fear of mine. But I just feel like it's weird. Also, she was the reason that Q changed, because he did not need that life anymore in the Yakuza. Like, he's seen the change, and he's seen that there was something better out there for him, and that was having a family, and he got that, and he left the Yakuza. Now they don't really have a reasoning for that, unless, you know, maybe Yumi survives or something like that in this, and he has a family with her. Unless they do something like that, I don't see a reasoning why he gives up the Yakuza life, unless that was what they made in this version, that he was ready to leave that life in those 10 years of being in prison. Unless they do that, but that's a different way of making Kiryu, because Kiryu seemed like he was going back to the Yakuza afterwards, but whatever. I just feel like that's gonna be weird, and she's a huge part of his life, and I just don't understand why they would cut her out of the story for what, the mole and Miho. Like, I feel like they could have done that, and there's so many people who thought Miho was going to be Haruka from the trailer, because she looks like a kid character, and I just don't think it's the same. I think the changes are really strange to do. They're cutting out the entirety of Zero. They are like moving on. They're not even like thinking like, oh, maybe we can make a prequel series in the future or something like that. They're just like cutting it out, changing the entire plot line. They are changing so much. It's no longer what I think is Yakuza. This is no longer the same thing, because their characters are completely different. The entire plot line is completely different. It is no longer Yakuza Kiwami / Yakuza 1. Jumping on here real quick while I'm editing to mention some stuff that was released right after I was finished recording this video. So I wanted to mention really quickly that they had some stuff from their marketing, which was a poster. I'll put that up here. It just looks more like Dead Cells to me personally than it does anything else. They also showed off that there was a video called I Want to Be the Dragon of Dojima or something around those lines from Prime Video JP. They showed that off. People were complaining about that. Japanese fans and Western fans, they were complaining about that. And I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't know why they tried to change Kiryu. That's the whole point. Kiryu is not supposed to be like that. He does not want to strive to be that kind of Yakuza. He wanted to be something like Kazuma, who was more respectful and things like that because of his background. And I know people are bringing up like Zero and how he was like I like how the people were bowing to you or something like that, something around that, where people were bowing to Kazuma and they like that. But I think in the way that it was supposed to be like taken, I guess, is that the respect that he got, that's what they wanted. Basically, the respect that he had, because he is more respectable than other Yakuza, and obviously in Zero, Kiryu was not acting like a thuggish one. They tried to put that on him, but that was not how he was, and that's why he left the Yakuza. That's also one thing I just wanted to put out there, because I'm pretty sure it was supposed to be taken that way, that they wanted respect the way that he was respected, Kazuma, than actually just being a thug. So there was also a fan translation of something that Yokoyama posted about that tweet, talking about I Want to Be the Dragon of Dojima. He posted that, and someone made a fan translation, which was by Carrie1138, which basically it was a long little thing. I'll put it on the screen and in the description so you guys can read it at your own pace and things like that. But basically in here, I just don't really like it, because he was talking about how this is a hot topic, and you know, there's a difference between the theater version, which was the stage play, and the version that was a movie in 2007. Those all had differences and things like that, but this is supposed to be different in that this one would be boring basically if they made a one-for-one remake, and I think that's really stupid. I think the way that to describe this, like, it's for me and not for you kind of thing, and I don't like that, because in the ending it comes off as I wanted something and I'm glad they did this that was more interesting to me than the fans who really wanted a one-for-one remake. And I know that it may not be exactly the wording, and I'm not trying to put words in anyone's mouth, because I'm not trying to say that he's saying it in a rude way or anything. I just think it comes off that way, that basically this would be boring if it was a one-for-one remake. I've seen everything. I know how this characters work. I know how the story ends and stuff like that, but this is different, and I like that. And mentions how it's supposed to bring people in, just like how they're bringing in Switch players to play Kiwami on there, and trying to bring new people to play Kiwami and get into the story. And I get that, but because now there's so many big leaps in the story that some people may not know who Ruka is, people may not know who Shinji is. Like, there are characters that doesn't seem like to be mentioned in here, but the stage play did. And I want to mention the stage play because I looked up the stuff related to stage play while editing this, and oh my gosh, the stage play was decently accurate. Like, I complained about the costuming in my last video, and the costuming in the stage play is so good, except Shinji. Why did they make him a host? I don't get that. Like, some characters were a bit off, but like characters like the Florist and like Nishiki and stuff like that, like these characters had one-for-one costuming for their characters and stuff like that. It just looked like these were trying to cosplay as these characters, and it worked really well. And that's why I give the stage play. And they just look more like these characters in the game. And I get that he doesn't want to see that again because that happened multiple times in Japan, but for Western fans, this is the first time we're actually getting a full-on, you know, Yakuza remake in live action, and we're getting shafted by getting a completely different storyline, not the same thing whatsoever. And I think that's the problem with what he may be seeing it as a good thing, because he's been through that all of the years of being at the Yakuza team. But as fans, we never got to experience that if we were Western fans or people who were just not in Japan at the time when they had those movies / theater plays. So I think that this is the wrong way to come about it, and that's why I think stuff like The Last of Us is one of the reasons why people really like one-for-one remakes of stuff like that as a TV show, that you can do it right and you can make it really good. And I think that's a good thing. Like, even with the Follow TV show, even though it's not exactly a remake of something, it does take the world of Fallout and do it one-for-one basically, except with slight changes like the Last of Us TV show. So basically, to end this off, I think that I don't really like the way that he worded this, at least from the fan translation. I don't like it. I just feel like it comes off as this was not made for you, it was made for me kind of thing, and I just don't like it. We are fans, we are watching it. I feel like this is a weird way to go about it, and I just don't understand why when people make TV shows and stuff like that, they do this. It's the same thing with the Avatar TV show and things like that. They're like, we get that there's people who like the original, but this is not for you. This is for new people who like, you know, Game of Thrones. And you're like, who the freak? Like, why are you selling it to those people who are not fans of it? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I just think that's personally me in this situation, but that's all I'm gonna say for this back to the original video. So yeah, I know for other people, they may have other feelings on this. That's up to you guys, and that's why I'm gonna ask. For this video, how do you feel about the trailer? How do you feel about everything that they changed and everything going on? Do you feel excited? Do you feel neutral? Do you feel not excited? Like, how do you guys feel about this? Let's have a conversation, because I want to genuinely know, will you be watching this on October 24th? Tell me in the comments. Let's have a conversation. I genuinely want to know how you guys feel about this and all of the changes. Maybe I'm just being too much of a purist. Maybe I'm just like I was expecting something else and now I'm just disappointed. Maybe it's just me, but I would love to hear how you feel. So that's all for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.
Whoa, 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 I'm just a man missing you, please understand.